Bob Fryer here in the AAPEX studio. I want to thank our sponsors, Repairify and Great Water 360 Auto Care. We are joined right now by Alana Baker. She's the VP of Government Relations and Research at AIA Canada. It is great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you.
You know, we talk a lot here at AAPEX about the right to repair, and it had a nice little moment about a couple of months ago. We had a hearing before Congress. But in Canada, the right to repair has had a couple of other milestones. Tell me about that.
Yeah, for sure. So we've seen a couple of recent wins and progress. Momentum is certainly building in Canada. At the federal level, we have Bill C-244, which is the current right to repair bill that our federal government is looking at. It's not the be-all, end-all solution for what we're looking for, but it is a necessary step in the right direction.
Has it been watered down or something? Are they putting amendments on it?
It's a broader bill. So it's not specific to the automotive industry. It's not specific to any industry in particular. It's very broad, but it is viewed as a necessary precursor to any additional type of right to repair legislation. So that bill recently did pass in the House of Commons just a couple of weeks ago.
And it's similar to what we would have to do, goes through the House of Representatives and then has to go to the Senate?
Correct.
Similar? Okay.
Correct. So it passed in the House with unanimous consent, I might add, which is great.
That's good,
So we have full party support across the board. It is now before the Senate and has to go through the same process there, a couple of readings, committee, and then the hope being that it goes on to receive royal assent, which would mean it would become law.
What are the odds makers placing on that?
You know, it just takes time is the problem. We're hoping that it's going to go through in the spring of 2024, so we have a few months. What we want to make sure is we get it through before, for example, an election is called or something of the like. Because if that does happen,
then you got to reconvince all the people who get elected.
You got to start all over again.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned a few things that happened. That's on the federal level. What else has happened?
Exactly. So at the provincial level, we did see Bill 29 in the province of Quebec. That bill has now passed and it is effectively law.
Oh, it's a law.
It is now a law. And what that bill does is it recognizes the importance of the right to repair for consumers, and the inclusion of vehicles is a really important step forward towards a fairer and more transparent marketplace that ensures consumer choice and allows our independent repair shops to fairly compete for vehicle owners' business.
That sounds like it's a great thing, but is it sort of like the states have their own laws, and then there's a national law, federal law as well, whereas something could be legal in one state but not as legal in another state. Is that the same thing that's going on here?
It is. I think it's a challenge. What we don't want to see is a patchwork system across the country, right? So if each and every single province introduces their own repair law, right to repair law, the interconnected nature of our industry, it's just not sustainable to have that. So if you're, right now, so Quebec, as I said, we have a lot of people working in the National Capital Region in Ottawa who live in Quebec. So if they're driving their car across the border, which takes 5 minutes to get to downtown Ottawa, what happens when their car breaks down? And as a consumer, you're thinking, well, the law should apply everywhere, right? We don't want that to be the case. It's just not sustainable, like I said. So Quebec, the bill has set an important precedent for Canada to follow and adopt federal legislation at the federal level, which would guarantee consumers from coast to coast to coast the right to repair their vehicle at the service provider of their choice.
Let me ask you this: the state's version, the U.S. version of the right to repair, the Canadian version of the right to repair, are they apples to apples, or one is nowhere near the same as the other? Is what's going on in Canada a map that the U.S. version of right to repair can follow?
And I think vice versa. It goes both ways. So we're really happy to learn and observe and see what's worked well elsewhere in other jurisdictions. We work very closely with our friends, obviously, here in the U.S. And so what we see is, ultimately, we're all looking for the same thing, right? Consumer choice, fairness, accessibility, affordability, fair competition. So I would say that the Quebec legislation is exactly what we're looking for. Are there tweaks that can be made? Sure.
Okay.
But at the federal level, like I said, it's only a start. What we need to see is standalone legislation that would mirror, for example, what we're seeing at the federal level here in the Repair Act in the U.S.
Well, as you say, momentum is building, and that's a good thing for the entire industry.
Yeah, it's certainly a good thing. And I would add that consumers support this in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
83% of Canadians
83%
think that vehicle manufacturers should be required by law to share the data so they can get their vehicle serviced at the provider of their choice. So legislation is not only there to, or needed to ensure fair competition, but what it also does is it preserves and protects consumer choice and enables and allows for continued access to essential, reliable, and affordable.
And 83% is a number that people who have to get elected pay close attention to.
Absolutely.
All right. Alana, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
And make sure when you're out and about here at AAPEX, lots to see, not just on this floor, but down at Joe's Garage. Make sure you're taking those pictures, and whatever social media site you happen to be on, use that hashtag AAPEX23. I'm Bob Fryer here in the AAPEX studio.